I think a lot of highly sensitive women are deeply lonely. My name is Lucy Superfox. This is my podcast. Welcome back. In this week's episode, I want to dive into why so many highly sensitive women are lone wolves, why they've withdrawn from communities, groups, and lots of people, and why they find it difficult to make friends. So if that sounds a little bit like you, then let's dive in. So one of the things I've talked about quite a lot before, and I talk about a lot with my clients, is this kind of lone wolf energy. This feeling of being separate, being different, just seeing things that other people don't see, but also just never feeling like I fit in. And, I said recently on social media that if I went back to school, my school friends, we're not particularly close, but I'm pretty sure if I told all my school friends I felt this way, they'd be like, what are you talking about? You were always included, always part of the group. Because it was never about what was actually happening, and it was always about how I felt. So whether or not for you, you were actually excluded and isolated, or whether you had the sensation or feeling that you were, I can absolutely guarantee that if that happened for you, that you are a highly sensitive human. Maybe a neurodivergent human too, but one whose experience of the world was completely different at such a young age, without the skills, without the tools, and without the nervous system capacity to be able to deal with it. So hopefully what I'm going to break down for you in this episode is why you feel so lonely and hopefully be able to give you the solution moving through it. So because when women are highly sensitive, they experience life in such an incredibly deep way. We have sensory processing sensitivity, which means that when someone sees, in front of me, I can see a field and a tree, rather than a field and a tree, I see 17 shades of green, I see a fence, I see the grass, I see the leaves moving all at the same time, right? And if we haven't been kind of trained our nervous systems to hold and handle that intensity, which most children weren't. I was raised by behaviorist parents. I was raised by parents who it was about how good you were. It was about how clean you were. It was about what you did and how you performed, because that's what they were taught from their parents, who were war parents, right? So post-war era, then behaviorist parents. I'm really excited to see what the next generation of kids who grow up look like, Fingers crossed they've all got regulated nervous systems and feel secure. But the truth is, I wasn't raised that way. I was raised by behaviorist parents. And so my sense of self and my sense of worth was definitely attached to my results. It was definitely attached to how I looked. It was attached to my success. It was attached to how well I did. It was attached to how other people saw me. So it didn't therefore really matter what I saw and what I felt, because I had been taught that my sense of safety and worth and knowingness was based on what was reflected back to me. And so when that happens, we can internalize this feeling of being wrong, of being broken, of not being right, of being our sense of the world must be distorted. And what I think most women, and not just highly sensitive women, but most women know, is that when we feel something and sense something with our intuition, we're often right? We've all met that person and been like, nope, they're a dick. Or we've all met someone's new boyfriend and been like, that's not gonna last, right? We know that about ourselves. But when you have that sense of knowing as a young person, without the skills, without the tools, without the resources to know what to do with it, and what's reflected back to you is that you're wrong, or that's incorrect, or that you need to follow behaviors, or you need to do this in school, even if your intuition or your sense of self is telling you you're not safe, it's not right for you, it's not what you want to do, you're taught to bypass how you really feel. You're taught to bypass that sense of who you really are. And when that happens, women then walk through life feeling wrong, feeling separate, feeling disconnected. Now, because of sensory processing sensitivity, we also internalize things in a massive way. Someone saying, because kids speak their fucking mind, right? Which I think is awesome. But when someone says, I don't like your shoes, we make that mean, oh my God, they don't like me. Or, I found what you said really interesting as an adult. That means, oh my God, they're criticizing me. And so this is why a lot of highly sensitive women end up with labels like RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, why they end up internalizing a lot of their outward experiences because of that feeling of it must be me. But what I can tell you is it's not just you. Yes, your high sensitivity. Yes, your neurodivergency. Yes, any other accessibility challenges or your experiences or disorders, dysfunctions, dysphorias of the world will 100% change your internalization of things that happen. But actually a lot more women than you think feel this way. And I think what most of us, love from the kind of the mean girl era is that we all realize that how being mean was just not a supportive tool. And yet it continues every single day. Women troll each other on the internet every single day. So what can happen is, because highly sensitive women are, want kindness, want to be generous, they often become those kind, generous, good-hearted people. They put things out, but they feel rejection, they feel the need for validation, they feel it so intensely and so deeply that highly sensitive women often withdraw themselves. They keep themselves protected. They hold themselves back from social situations, connecting with new people, making new friends, and often completely unconsciously. And as a result, it's then very easy to look at life and say, people don't like me, I just don't fit in, I'm just separate and different, I don't fit in these rooms, because that has, one, been your life experience, but two, because of the way you feel when you put yourself in new environments doesn't feel safe. And so this is the work I really do with clients, right? Where we work at the root cause. So we work at not the level of the idea or the thought, we work at the level of the energy or that sensation of lack of safety. We make it safe to be rejected, safe to not be validated, safe to not be approved of. So that, one, we can stand in our sense of self and our sense of power and our sense of autonomy and our sense of knowing. But more than anything, so we can actually feel safe enough to build connections with other people. One of the things I've talked a lot about on this podcast recently is attachment theory, and really the concept that we have attachment styles that ultimately means the way we build relationships with other people and what they mean about us. And a lot of highly sensitive and neurodivergent women will be anxious, insecure, or they'll be anxious avoidant. And that's because they have been taught that other people's opinions, other people's validation, other people's love, or even our attachment styles show up with food, with money, with business, that the outside thing means more about us than what we think about us. That our sense of self-worth, self-love, self-trust is reflected back to us. And if it's not reflected back to us, then we've done something wrong. It must be us. And so what then happens is we get this experience of we put ourselves out there, we get rejected or things don't work, and then we shrink. We put ourselves out there, someone doesn't like us, something doesn't work out, we get rejected, and then we shrink. And women end up by midlife shrinking, small, withdrawn, holding themselves back, and wondering where it all went fucking wrong. And wondering why they're lonely and wondering why it's so hard to make friends. And it's because it doesn't feel safe. So I'm not going to give you advice, tell you to go out there and make new friends and put yourself out there. And like, I literally fucking hate it when people say, push yourself out your comfort zone, because for highly sensitive women, it's not a comfort zone, it's a safety zone. So this is where the work I do with clients is so valuable, because it's about recalibrating that safety zone. It's about making safety a bigger experience inside of you so that you can put yourself out there and actually have the life experiences that you're craving. That you can feel safe to date, you can feel safe to make friends, you can feel safe to go to events, you can feel safe to show up as a stranger in a room and not feel like everyone's staring at you, because it feels safe to be you, because you know you're worthy, you know you're loved, you know you're capable, you know you're good enough, not because of anyone else, but because of how you feel about you. And that's the work I do with clients, is helping them rebuild the relationship they have with themselves. So at their core, they feel safe to be themselves, they like themselves, they trust themselves, and they know themselves. And if we're talking attachment, they have a secure attachment. They no longer need to attach themselves, their worth and their validation to outside things. And when that happens, that's when women can put themselves into rooms with other women. That's when we're no longer afraid of mean girls. It's when we can put ourselves out there in front of people and stand in our work or stand in our belief system or stand up for what we believe in and not shrink and not pull back and not withdraw. But highly sensitive women are often so afraid to make friends because that experience inside of you of rejection, needing approval, or that sense of shrinking is so visceral, you want to reject it at all costs. So here's the advice I would give you. Do not just put yourself out there and try to make new friends when this is the pattern that keeps looping for you. Instead, this is the opportunity, this is your invitation to do the inner work. If you found this podcast, you found this episode, this is your invitation to build that sense of self-worth, self-trust, self-autonomy, self-agency. And the way that I teach my clients to do that, I'm literally giving away for free inside my free roadmap. So to get the roadmap, you can go to lucysuperfox.com/roadmap, or I'll link it below in the show notes. This roadmap is a 25-minute workshop and a downloadable PDF to show you the exact 4-part method that I walk clients through so they can move from awareness of all these things, awareness of knowing themselves, but actually shift, change, and rearrange it at the level of the pattern, at the root, and build that sense of nervous system safety so they can go into the world making friends, having fun, dating, putting themselves out there, and yes, at sometimes being rejected, but not then leading to them shrinking, holding back, and withdrawing. So as a highly sensitive woman, your experience of the world is different, but that doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you broken, and it doesn't mean you're not capable of making friends, having that successful business, or changing your relationship with food, money, or what it might be. But the answer is building that sense of safety, that sense of certainty, that sense of trust, agency, and love inside of yourself. So you're no longer looking for outside. When a secure person walks into the room, you notice them, and that secure person will be you. So if you're curious about what that looks like and you want to find out more, you can download the roadmap at lucysuperfox.com/roadmap, and you can find it linked in the notes below. If you like this episode, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share it with another highly sensitive woman, and I'll see you on the next episode.